Howdy folks, or I guess it's hey y'all. My name's Mare. Welcome back to my channel. Didn't mean to throw you off there. I threw myself off a little bit there. We're starting a vlog. Yeah. Hey y'all, my name's Mare. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're starting another reading vlog where I attempt to finish some series. So I am the worst at starting series and not finishing them. So I really want to finish them out, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, and clear off my TBR. I have also done a really bad job of reading YA fantasy lately, which is something I read a lot of last year, and I just haven't been reaching towards as much, so I really want to make it a focus in this vlog to read these YA fantasy sequels and hopefully wrap up some series. So let's get into the TBR for this video. First book I'm going to be reading is the sequel to Shielded. I'm going to keep this spoiler free. I'm just gonna give you my thoughts and opinions and if like these sequels match up to the first book in the series. Shielded follows a princess named Jenna who is betrothed to this prince. She doesn't want to marry him. It turns out she has to go marry him. So she goes on her little journey and everything goes wrong. She never actually makes it to the kingdom because she gets stuck in the wild. So this one has a lot of like political intrigue and two kingdoms at war with each other, and there's also the concept of magic in this book. Jenna has magic. She's not supposed to because it's only supposed to go to the king's firstborn and she is the second, and it's also seen as like a threat because she's a woman. So she goes on this journey to go find her betrothed and hopefully repair things between these two kingdoms, and things of course go wrong. Jenna's magic is related to emotional tethers, so she has tethers to her brother and her dad, and while she's on this journey she feels something happened to them. She believes her family to be dead, and her magic is pretty cool. It gets more explored throughout the novel, and I'm not going to really explain what that is because I think you should find it out for yourself. I did really enjoy this book. I think I gave this one 3.5 stars. I really liked the beginning and I really liked Jenna's magic, but I got really frustrated because it just felt like it dragged on for me. So now I'm reading the sequel to it, which is Untethered. This one I can't really give you a synopsis for without spoiling a lot of the first book, but it does follow two characters from Shielded. I'll talk about one in depth because I feel like the other one is kind of a spoiler, but you're following Princess Chiara, and she is Jenna's betrothed sister, and she's often just overlooked. She feels like she doesn't really have a place in her kingdom. She doesn't really get to prove herself and prove her worth, and so when the opportunity comes up for her to do so, she decides to go on a quest and sort of solve the kingdom's problems on her own, which was like probably not very smart of her, but also very girl boss. What I'm really liking about these books is the strong feminine leads. I feel like they're very unapologetically themselves. While they do have this sort of not like other girls syndrome, it's not overbearing, and also like sometimes I like a good not like other girls moment, and I just feel like they really prove themselves in their actions and in their characters. I feel like the characters are just really well done in this series. So I am how far into Untethered? So I'm currently 61% into this sequel. I'm hoping to finish this book either today or tomorrow, and then I'll give you more of my thoughts on it. But so far, I honestly am liking it much more than Shielded. I really did like the beginning of Shielded, like I mentioned, but this one I just feel is so much better paced. I really just like Chiara as a character. I like Jenna enough, but I just feel like Chiara has more layers to her and we're learning more about her with her. I really love like a good journey of self-discovery, and it's really evident in Untethered. More thoughts on that book to come. As far as the other books that I'm going to be reading in this vlog, I have 3 hopefuls. I'll probably only read 1 or 2 of them, and then maybe we can do another reading vlog where I read the other 2. But I want to read When Night Breaks. I've tried to pick this up I think twice and it just hasn't happened, but this is the sequel to Where Dreams Descend, which was, God, I think one of my favorite books of 2020. So this one's a long time coming. The cover's beautiful. First of all, like that alone makes me want to read it. And this is sort of a Phantom of the Opera retelling. It's kind of been compared to, I want to say like Caraval or the Night Circus. Like it's got that kind of flowery writing and atmosphere. So this book follows Kalia, and she goes into a city to enter this competition where women really aren't allowed to compete, but she does it anyways because she's a girl boss. It's pretty fun. I really enjoyed the first book. I reread it in anticipation of when this book came out, and then I just never picked up the sequel, of course, so hopefully we get to this one. My next hopeful is Our Violent Ends, which is the sequel to These Violent Delights, and God, it has been so long since I read These Violent Delights that I really don't remember much about it beyond the fact that it is a Romeo and Juliet retelling with more knives. And then the last book that I would ideally like to read in this vlog, but I know is not going to happen, is The Serpent's Curse by Lisa Maxwell. This is the third book in the Last Magician series, and this follows a young thief named Esta who essentially has this power that can bend time. Like, she really reminds me of Doctor Strange. So the way I pitch this book always is like Marvel's Infinity War, is that what it's called? Like the Infinity Stones, right? Basically, that's what this book is, but it's in like a historical time period, and it's really fun. I would love to read this book. I really like the romance in this series, and it hasn't been very developed, so I feel like The Serpent's Curse is going to really dive deep into that. But like, guys, do you see how thick this boy is? I'm not sure I'm quite up to the challenge yet, and I know that the fourth book in the series is coming out, I want to say in December of this year, so I might hold off on reading this for about another month or two and then dive into it. But you know, it could happen. We're gonna cross our fingers, cross our fingies. Maybe some magic will happen. I'm gonna go finish Untethered, and then I'll check back in with y'all. Hi y'all, I'm back. So I finished Untethered a few days ago, so I need to fill you in. I ended up liking this one more than the first book in the series. I think I ended up giving this one 4 stars and probably shielded 3.5. So the reason why I liked this book more is I really liked the characters it followed more. I really like Chiara as a main character, and the other one that I can't really talk about without spoiling the first book, but I liked their dynamics together, and I just liked the adventure a lot more. I thought it was a lot better paced than the first novel, because in the first book you're kind of going everywhere. Jenna is doing all sorts of stuff, and while they are doing a lot, in the second book I feel like it's more streamlined and one action leads to the next, which I appreciated more. There are a lot of convenient plot devices in this book because they're all going on this journey and they somehow all leave separately but somehow made it together. So it is a little bit convenient. You do kind of have to suspend your disbelief. I feel like things happen too easy to them, but they also got in danger a lot, which checks out because these are really young, dumb kids who are thinking they're capable of doing so much more than they probably are in this epic fantasy world. So I appreciated how these teenagers also acted like teenagers and they made irrational decisions. I just thought that it was very, very on-brand for a 16, 17-year-old to act how they did, and the consequences of their actions were evident. One other thing that kind of brought down the rating for me was the villains felt very cartoonish. They didn't have a lot of layers to them except for one of them. So I did appreciate how one villain had more depth to him, but the other two were just, they said a lot of outlandish things. It wasn't like believable. Like, you wanted to know their motives and why they were doing what they were doing, and it was just like a little too cartoony for me. But overall, I thought this was a really fun YA fantasy duology. I would definitely recommend it if you're looking for something kind of basic, checks all the YA fantasy boxes, but that you're not going to think too hard about. If you like journeys and quests and things of that nature, if you like a slow burn romance, all these things are evident. And honestly, I just had a really fun time reading the sequel and I couldn't put it down. So I'm glad I picked this one up for sure, since I did enjoy it more than Shielded, and I think if you're looking for a basic tropey time, hit it up. So as far as the next book that I'm going to be reading for this vlog, I think I'm going to pick up Our Violent Ends. I'm super excited about this one, so I'll tell you more what I think when I actually start it. I lied to you, I didn't start Our Violent Ends, but I did start another sequel. It's just one that I hadn't even talked about in this video because of course that's how it's gonna work. I ended up starting Flamefall, which is the sequel to Fireborne. This is the second book in a trilogy that follows different dragon riders. There's a lot of different political intrigue, and it essentially follows Annie and Lee, who grew up in this orphanage together. They took a test and they found out that they actually could join an elite class of people who ride dragons to protect their kingdom. There's a lot more layers to it, obviously, but there's, you know, the classic good versus evil side and who's the right party in this scenario. And I'm about, I want to say maybe 40% into Flamefall. Let's see, 45% into it. Nice. So I'm in a race against time here because I'm trying to finish the book before it's due to the library. I have both the Kindle edition and the audiobook edition checked out, so I have the audiobook for like 2 more weeks. We're good there. But I really hate reading fantasy on audio, so I have the Kindle book and I only have 2 more days to read it. So I'm trying this like combo thing to hopefully get this one just done and then maybe launch into the 3rd book in the series. I'm really trying to finish this one quickly, so we might have some more updates soon. What I want to say about it now is I like it a lot more than the first book, Fireborne. I was hesitant to finish this series, but I honestly think that I will. I think that there's a lot more development in this war and these characters. I found myself really attached to Lee and Annie, and I want to see not only their friendship develop, but also their romance develop. There's a lot of hints to that in the first book, and nothing's really happened yet, but I definitely foresee that being something that will happen by the end of the series. And there's just a lot of layers to that because Lee and Annie come from 2 different worlds, but also grew up together. Lee is the son of the old kingdom's king, and he was killed and a new person like took charge of it, and everyone hated Lee's dad. So he takes on this secret identity and hides himself in this orphanage, and he ends up being selected to become a dragon rider all these years later, which of course is gonna present problems because the dragon riders were only like noble elite people that he would have been if this new government hadn't been created. People are just finding out this new government still pretty terrible, even though it says that it's going to be better than the last one. I'm just loving where this book is going. I love that there's a new perspective in this book. We have the perspective of Griff now. Prior to this, we just had Lee and Annie, and Griff comes into the picture because he was very closely connected to a character who died in the first book, and they were on the opposite side of the war. So you're getting the opposite side of the war's perspective in there, but he's also a peasant, he's a commoner, and he's really poorly treated by these people on his side of the war. Thinking they're all gonna come together, form an alliance, and maybe just, you know, fight against both sides because both sides of the war suck. Gonna try and finish this one and then maybe read 1 more book for this vlog, but we're trying to finish some series and I think we're making some good progress. I'm aware I look like this, just so we're clear. I just need to update you guys because I feel like we haven't chatted in a while. We haven't chatted in a while. I've even forgotten how to talk. I finished Flamefall probably a week ago at this point. I ended up giving it 4 stars. Really liked it. I actually liked it more than the first book. Oh god, my camera's falling. Hello. Sorry guys, welcome to the chaos. So I finished Flamefall. I gave it 4 stars, which I liked it more than the first book. But honest to god, I don't remember much else about it. I know I want to read the 3rd book because one of my favorite characters from the whole series, they got, okay, and I'm not happy about it. There were some reveals about the situation that made me very intrigued about the 3rd book. I just really liked the political development. I really liked this book because I feel like it delves into the concept of good versus evil, but like also who's actually right in this case scenario, because both sides have their own reasoning and you really can't dictate who's right just because you're reading from that perspective. Like Annie really struggles with knowing if she's on the right side of the war, and so does Lee, and I just find it so interesting that these characters are fighting for something they believe in, but they also know that how they're fighting for it isn't right and they're trying to make a change for it. Really enjoying the series. I think it definitely reads more sophisticated YA fantasy. Like these characters are a little bit older and I feel like they're a little bit more grounded. It's not really romance heavy, it's not really drama filled, which don't get me wrong, I love fantasy like that. Love me some drama filled YA fantasy. But I feel like this series is definitely a good transitional book into adult fantasy. It's got some more serious tones to it, and it also just has some very mature characters and mature plot concepts. So really enjoyed it. Maybe I'll read the 3rd one in this vlog, who really knows. Probably not, because I started When Night Breaks. I don't the book's in my bag, okay? When Night Breaks is the sequel to Where Dreams Descend, so this is the last book in the duology. There's only gonna be 2, which is very exciting to me because I can complete a series. And I think I'm 100 pages into it. I'm enjoying it. I'm a little scared, a little apprehensive because it has some pretty bad Goodreads reviews. I'm gonna be honest. A lot of people who really loved the first book didn't really care for this book, and that really devastates me. I can see that the sequel will probably not live up to the first book for me already because we're getting answers from the first book. Like, I was so intrigued about these mirrors and how they work. There's like this cool thing that happens with mirrors. Okay, I'll fill you in on that. And I was intrigued to see how they work when someone is inserted into that world. And someone's inserted into that world in this book. And the answer is just like not cool or what I expected. I just feel like it's very lackluster and so much more could have been done and more could be done. Things could still happen, but so far it's just really not living up to my expectations, which is a bummer because I love Where Dreams Descend. I will say, I'm still very interested in the book. There's a lot of interesting questions raised. I love being back with these characters. I don't know how all of this one's gonna pan out, so stay tuned. More thoughts to come. Hey guys, so I have great news. I finished When Night Breaks, and I actually really loved this. I wanna say I gave it a 4-star, maybe a 4.5. Like, I'm kind of unsure right now. At this point, it wasn't what I was expecting, but I also don't know what else I would have expected from this book. So first of all, I do apologize for not giving you guys like an update in the middle of the book. Life's just been kind of crazy, and the fact that I finished this is just amazing to me. What did I love about it? I love the atmosphere, and I know that in the beginning of this clip, I talked about how I wasn't sure about this new world that they were exploring, but honestly, all that out the window, I really did like it. I feel like it answered a lot of questions that I had from the first book, and it was just really fun getting to explore this world with Kalia and DeMarco and just seeing their characters thrive in this new environment, even under horrible circumstances. I also really liked the chapters we got from Jack in this book. So Jack is sort of the Phantom character, I guess. I've never seen Phantom of the Opera, which I know is a sin, and I probably should watch it. But my understanding is like Jack is like the Phantom. He has a lot of really cool moments in this book. He has a lot of really pivotal changes and really fun reveals. So I really liked reading about his character. I was honestly kind of rooting for a love triangle between DeMarco, Kalia, and Jack. And maybe honestly Jack winning that, because he really stepped up in this book and he was hot and mysterious, and it was just a good time. So really glad this one turned around for me. I never like disliked it, but I had a feeling it was going to be really hard for me to get into and that it wasn't going to live up to the first book. And while I do still think that I enjoyed the first book better, I've also read that one twice and I've only read this one once, and I definitely could see myself rereading this just because the atmosphere is so wonderful, so whimsical, so fun. If you're looking for like a cool fantasy world that isn't too hard to like kind of understand but also leaves you with like a lot of questions, you're very like inquisitive, I think that you would really enjoy this series. Overall, I think this vlog went really well. I gave all of these books, I want to say, 4 stars, which is awesome, and I did finish out 2 series out of the 3 that I read. Really enjoyed all 3 of these books, highly recommend all of these series. I think out of all of them, I would recommend the Where Dreams Descend duology the most, just because it's 2 books, easily wrapped up. Shielded's also really great, but I just felt like that one was more generic. And then Fireborne, I haven't finished yet, so I don't want to give like my full thoughts on if I'd recommend it, but so far the book series on track to be better and better with each book, so that's good news. Let me know what other books you are wanting me to read to do this kind of series with. Let me know if I talked about any sequels that I didn't read that you're wanting to know my thoughts on. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'll definitely be doing another one to kind of clear out my series. And thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye y'all.